The most shocking psychological truth about midlife change: most people think midlife change is a crisis, a breakdown, a sign that something has gone wrong. But what if that idea is completely backwards? What if midlife isn't the moment your life starts falling apart, but the moment the truth finally stops being quiet? Because here is the most shocking psychological truth about midlife change. You are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself for the first time. And once you understand what's really happening beneath the surface, this phase of life stops feeling confusing and starts making sense in a way that is both unsettling and freeing. This isn't a quick list or surface advice. It's a complete psychological breakdown built in layers. Each part matters. If you skip ahead, you'll miss why this works. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just understand midlife change. You'll understand why it happens, why it hurts, and why it may be the most important phase of your life. From a young age, you are trained to build a self that functions. Be responsible, be productive, be acceptable, be needed. You learn which traits earn approval and which ones create problems. So you adjust. You soften parts of yourself. You silence others. You prioritize stability over curiosity, certainty over truth. And for a long time, this works. You build a career, a routine, a reputation, a role that makes sense to the world. But psychology tells us something critical. The self you build to survive is not the same as the self you are meant to inhabit. Midlife is when that difference becomes impossible to ignore. Around this stage of life, the rewards change. External validation loses its power. Achievements feel strangely hollow. The goals that once motivated you no longer move you. And this creates anxiety because you haven't failed. You've done everything you were supposed to do. So why does it feel wrong? Because the question has changed. Earlier in life, the question was, how do I succeed? Midlife asks a different one. How do I live in alignment with who I actually am? This is where people panic. They call it a crisis, but psychologically, it's an awakening. The old identity was built for survival. The new phase demands authenticity, and authenticity is disruptive. Midlife often feels confusing because you don't immediately know what you want. You only know what no longer fits. The career that once gave you purpose now feels draining. The relationships that once felt secure now feel constraining. The routines that once provided structure now feel suffocating. This is not indecision. It's discernment. Your nervous system is no longer satisfied with performance alone. It wants coherence. Psychologists describe this as a shift from external orientation to internal orientation. You stop measuring life by applause and start measuring it by integrity. But this transition is uncomfortable because the mind hates ambiguity. So the discomfort shows up as restlessness, irritability, boredom, sudden dissatisfaction that seems to come from nowhere. People try to fix these feelings instead of listening to them. They distract themselves. They double down on busyness. They chase novelty. They suppress the signal. But suppression only delays the reckoning. Midlife change is what happens when ignored parts of the self demand expression. The creativity you postponed. The boundaries you never set. The anger you swallowed to stay agreeable. The questions you avoided because they threatened stability. They don't disappear, they wait, and when they surface, it feels like your life is unraveling. But what's actually unraveling is the false self. The shocking truth is this: midlife is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before adaptation took over. Before you learned which parts of you were too much. Before you learned which dreams were unrealistic. Before you learned that fitting in was safer than standing out. For years, you traded authenticity for security. Midlife is when the psyche asks for balance. And this is why some people experience midlife change as a breakdown. Not because it's destructive, but because they resist it. The psyche escalates when ignored. Quiet dissatisfaction becomes anxiety. Anxiety becomes resentment. Resentment becomes numbness. Midlife change is not the problem. Avoiding it is. Here's another truth most people never hear. Not everyone reaches this stage. Some people remain emotionally asleep their entire lives. They stay loyal to outdated identities. They never ask deeper questions. Midlife change means you have enough safety, experience, and awareness for deeper integration to begin. Early adulthood is about building a functional self. Midlife is about building an honest one. This is where values replace goals. Meaning replaces metrics. Depth replaces speed. And yes, it often involves grief. Grief for paths not taken. Versions of yourself never lived. Time that cannot be reclaimed. That grief is not weakness. It is maturity. You are finally able to hold complexity without collapsing. Healthy midlife change does not look dramatic on the outside. It looks like saying no without explaining, choosing depth over status, letting go of roles that cost too much, caring less about being impressive and more about being at peace. Feels quieter, but it is stronger. You stop proving. You stop performing. You stop apologizing for wanting alignment. And something subtle happens. Your nervous system relaxes, because for the first time, your inner world and outer life begin to tell the same story. This is why midlife change can feel lonely. When you change, people around you may resist it. Not because you are wrong, but because your growth disrupts familiar dynamics. You may hear things like, "You've changed. You're being selfish. You're overthinking. Why can't you just be satisfied?" These are not judgments. They are defenses. Your authenticity highlights what others avoid in themselves. Psychology is clear here. Outgrowing a role is not betrayal. It is evolution. You cannot stay loyal to an identity that requires self-abandonment. Midlife is not asking you to destroy your life. It's asking you to stop living someone else's version of it. The real question of midlife is not, how successful am I? It's this, how honest have I been with myself? Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly, because the second half of life is not about accumulation. It's about alignment. And once you answer that question, even imperfectly, the confusion begins to soften. Not because life becomes easy, but because it becomes true. If this resonated, take a moment and reflect. What part of you has been waiting quietly for years? And if this helped you see midlife differently, subscribe for more psychology-based conversations about growth, identity, and meaning. For many people, midlife is not the end of something. It's the first honest beginning.